Hi, welcome to another episode of Montana Shares, your opportunity to find out about the nonprofits that make our state great. I'm your host, Bill Crane, and today I have Kal with Grandstreet. Hi, Kal, how's it going?
Great, thanks. Thanks so much for having me.
You bet. So let's take the high-level view. Tell us about what Grandstreet is and does, and we'll go from there.
Well, Grandstreet is a community theater that's operated in Helena for the last 40 years. In fact, we're having our 40th birthday coming up here on Sunday. So it'll be 40 years operating in the same spot. We've actually been an organization for 41. We officially opened our doors in 1975 on Grand Street. Now we're located on Park Avenue in Helena, Montana, in a beautiful historic Unitarian church. And we've been making community-powered theater and a theater school there for the last, the theater school's been 30 years, about 40 years of community theater.
Okay, so you do some, I don't know if they're world-class, but you do some phenomenal shows there. You've gone out on limbs.
For world-class, yeah.
Yeah, you've gone out on limb and gone for some really challenging parts and plays and stuff. So what are some of the notable ones in your mind?
Man, we've got a pretty great season this year, and one of the things that we're able to take advantage of sometimes is because rights are offered to different community theaters, sometimes based on if there's a national tour of a show that's coming near. When shows come off Broadway, they often do a national tour. Mm-hmm. And fortunately for us, unfortunately maybe for everyone who lives in Montana, we don't really have a venue in the state that brings in those national tours. The closest they typically come is the Spokane Opera House.
Right.
And so that's far enough away for the folks who grant the rights agency, the licensing for shows, for us to get the first crack at a lot of these titles when they become available. So James and the Giant Peach was one that we did this summer. Mm-hmm. That was, we were one of the very first companies in the country to be able to have the non-professional rights for that. We've done a few of those. Billy Elliot this past spring was like that. Mary Poppins, we were the first theater company in the Northwest to be able to do the non-professional premiere of that. And yeah, so we sometimes get those fresh from Broadway titles that other community theaters that might be in New Jersey or somewhere nearby to Roadhouse, mm-hmm. That they can't do. Mm-hmm. So those are exciting when we get those brand new titles.
Right.
We've got some in the season. Rock of Ages is one that we did this summer that was a brand new title. We're running a show right now that I'm very excited about because, well, I got to direct this one.
Good.
And so that's always fun for me. And this is, it's on stage now through October 30th. And it's called Peter and the Starcatcher. It's the origin story for Peter Pan as told by Dave Barry and Ridley Pierce. And they wrote a young adult novel called Peter and the Starcatchers, plural. Mm-hmm. And that was very successful. It was sort of like Harry Potter a little bit towards that age range that it was targeted for, but enjoyed by all ages. And it really, when it was turned into a Broadway show, it really caught the imagination of a lot of people. And some people call it Neverland for grown-ups. It is very fun for kids, I should say, but probably even more fun for the adults who come to see it. It's a little irreverent sometimes in the humor, but it explores how Captain Hook lost his hand, how Peter and the Lost Boys get lost, how Neverland is created, and those origin stories are a lot of fun. They made that the play Wicked as sort of an origin story for Wizard of Oz. Mm-hmm. And Peter and the Starcatchers is that. It's the origin story for the boy who can fly, the boy who never grows up, and how some of those wonderful stories that we know, the tales about Tinkerbell or Captain Hook and his first mate Smee, and how they all kind of got stuck on Neverland. It's a really great cast that I've got in the show. Mm-hmm. It's a tremendous piece of theater. When I saw it on Broadway, and to this day, it remains one of my top theater experiences I've ever had in my life.
Wow.
To just seeing the production, and getting to direct it was a tremendous amount of fun. So I recommend everybody goes out and see it. It is if you know the work of Dave Barry.
Yeah, I was going to say the irreverent part doesn't surprise me there.
Yeah. It's pretty hilarious. He's one of those writers. He was a columnist for a newspaper. I forget the newspaper he wrote for.
I don't know. I saw his column.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
They call him a humorist, I guess. He's written some other books, but it's a really fun journey that we get to take about the power of imagination and how that can transform you. And I think that's on a larger level one of the things that Grandstreet in general does pretty well. I think community theater is really great at that, and that's the focus of this play. But I think it's got resonances for people in their general lives. I think imagination is good for people.
Oh, you bet.
Using your creativity and changing your circumstance through the power of your imagination and collaboration with others, and inspiring imagination and creativity in other people. I think that's one of those really powerful things in our world that we need more of. Less cell phones, more live theater.
So in the vein of fostering that kind of creativity and imagination, I didn't realize that the student or the children's part was as long as it. I've worked downtown. I've seen them out on the lawns. I've seen them all around downtown. Even back in the days when Coney Island was the go-to place to make sure they're all fed and stuff.
Miss Coney Island.
So how many, typically, how many students go through there in a year?
Well, it's a great question. We have a pretty active student population, K through 12. So it's the whole primary school range up through high school, and we have at any one time typically 200 to sometimes up to 250 kids in the after-school program. During the school year, we have 4 8-week sessions, and kids can come and go, and during the summer we have a 2-week camp in July that has up to 350 students in it, sort of depending on the year. But we've got a very active theater school. It's a program that I went through when I was a kid, and a big part of why I'm doing this in my career. I would say this is the reason that I've been an actor, that I've been a theater professional, that I have this job is due to Grandstreet Theater School. It's the teaching that you get as a student, and a lot of it is theater related and acting and the kinds of things that you'd think, but a lot of it is just general life skills. I think theater school makes kids better people, better grown-ups, and even if they don't go on to be performers, and most of them don't, I think that what it does is it instills in kids a sense of creativity, collaboration. I think that there's a really important thing about empathy that sometimes is getting lost today. It feels like that a little bit. Maybe there's so much video games and iPhones and social media and things like that consume our space a little bit, that actual face-to-face interaction where you're working deliberately to put yourself into other people's shoes on a regular basis, where you're learning how to work with your peers and creatively come up with solutions and inhabit the lives of other people. That I think that gives kids something incredibly powerful.
Right. Well, I think also just public speaking, which this isn't public speaking, but it is stage presence, and with sort of that isolation you just talked about, I think it helps with getting over some of the stage fright, getting over, just being able to express yourself in public,
Yeah.
which is an extremely important skill in our society.
Yeah, you hear that from a lot of our alumni. It's that you know, I went on to become a banker, or became an executive here, or I'm a doctor, or whatever. But I learned in theater school, some fundamental things, and some of them have to do with that stage presence, or actively, being able to express a thought, or channel your creativity. Some of them are just time management, giving kids a sense of responsibility from a young age, saying, listen, you may be only 10 years old, but we're counting on you to learn your lines and to show up when you say you're going to be. And you have some onus on you as a young person, where you feel like you actively could let people down if you don't. I think it's great to give kids responsibility.
Yeah.
So that's one of those things we like it when we've got 12-year-olds running our light board, or 16-year-olds stage managing a performance. There's some, I don't know if it's that sense of experience that you walk out the door with as a theater school alumni that really can catapult you to the next level when you go off to college, or the world beyond, that I think is really nice. I'm very biased, but
No problem with that.
I think that's a nice thing to give for kids. So.
Right. So you've got a couple of events coming up. One will actually take place before this airs, but let's talk about those two events really quick.
So, Peter and the Starcatchers run through the end of October, we've got an event that's coming up this Sunday, which would be the 23rd of October, which is our 40th anniversary. We're having a little gathering. And then we have a memorial performance on November 3rd. Okay. So that'll be the evening of November 3rd, and there's more information about that on our website. But it's for a gentleman named Don McLaughlin, who was the executive director at Grandstreet Theatre from 1979 to 1993. Mm-hmm. This is a guy who loomed very large in my world as a young person. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, we lost him way too soon. He was 66, I think, and had a fall, and passed away a couple days ago. And we're still kind of trying to come to terms with that. He was one of those people who was foundational for Grandstreet. There was a few years before he came along where we'd had a pretty good couple years as an organization, but Don and his wife Janet McLaughlin took Grandstreet as a very young theater company and gave it a stability that lifted the quality of the work and the expectations, and built the theater school. That happened during Don's tenure at Grandstreet, and due to his wife Janet, who started that. Mm-hmm. Don's one of those guys that I think, if you had some contact with him, and a lot of young people in the community did, he was just a force of nature, and he made an impact on you. Even if you only had a minimal amount of contact with him, he was one of those guys. I'm sure you have them in your life. For me, those very masculine presences who were just, when I think about like big men, where you might aspire to be like the kind of big men that are in the world. Like I would put my grandfather up there, my dad, and Don McLaughlin, was just an absolutely powerful figure. And he was a mentor to a ton of kids who will all miss him very, very much. It's hard to think that he's not still in this world. So we're going to have an opportunity to celebrate his life and have some people come back to town, sing some songs, raise some money for the family, and I think it'll be a wonderful opportunity to celebrate a man who gave a lot to the community of Helena.
Mm-hmm. So probably also the opportunity to provide a reunion opportunity for
Yeah.
all this alumni that has gone through over the years
Yeah.
and all those lives that he did touch.
We've been making a lot of phone calls over the past couple days and letting people know and touching base with people that we haven't seen or heard from for a while. And it's been a hard reason to call, but it's been a great excuse to catch up with wonderful people that you haven't seen for a while. So. Yeah, there'll be some alumni coming back from the theater school, some people who were instrumental in the early days of Grandstreet coming back to town to celebrate Don McLaughlin.
Good. So November 3rd, check your website for details.
Yeah,
Best
yeah.
thing we can give them.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be some kind of recommended donation. It's not really a ticket price, but it'll be a wonderful performance. We've got some very talented musicians and singers coming back, and stories that'll be told, and maybe some performances that will honor his spirit. And yeah, he's one worth honoring.
Okay, so we should probably wrap up here. So any final thoughts, or see the current play? And
yeah, one thing that I will put a plug in for is Grandstreet is an organization that it very much belongs to the city of Helena. Our mission is to brighten Helena and elevate the human spirit through live theater and theater education. And the way that we do that is with volunteers. We are a volunteer-powered organization. And some people think, oh, Grandstreet, that's a professional theater and they have volunteer help.
Yeah.
We are a volunteer-powered organization. We have a professional staff to support the volunteers. And we rely on our community. We rely on the people of Helena to come out and audition for the shows, to usher, to help us build the sets, or paint the backdrops, or to build the costumes. We really could not do what we do at Grandstreet without a really wonderful community. So,
and this Helena
volunteer.
is a giving community.
Oh man,
so
yeah.
They'll come out and volunteer and keep volunteering.
We'll take your time. We'll take your money. We appreciate the generosity of this community and the talents of this community. There's a lot of talented people. So I should do a plug really quickly for the two Christmas shows are Lion King Junior, youth production, and a youth production of It's a Wonderful Life, a radio play.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That sounds intriguing.
So those will be up over December, and then in the spring we've got My Fair Lady. That'll be very fun, and Always Patsy Cline that's in January. So some great shows coming up on the horizon, yeah, we hope to see you at the theater.
Excellent. Well, thank you for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Thank you guys for tuning in, and keep an ear out for the next episode.